This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Go. Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Kentucky's Voice, and I'm Diana Starr. Welcome to the show today. I wanted to make a quick statement. It's sad that every time I hear young men and women mention the establishment, they refer to our government and our GOP with a negative connotation. And I want to know, why is that? Why haven't we begun to invigorate them with the passion that some of us older people feel? I have a couple of theories about it, but due to my time constraints, I'm going to pick two, and the word is vapid and accountability. When obligations are met with agreement but not fulfilled, this is exclusion Trump's administration. When matters of local, state, national, and the grand old party are met with rote, lifeless actions that relegate us to spiritless no-shows and barbershop political whisperings, they bleed America dry. Vapid by its very definition are what our delegates and appointees are doing. They're left by the wayside, these Americans, for Sunday brunch brag talking points. What of our establishment? I pray that President Trump and his continuing efforts to bring America great again continue to extend to our youth. You know, Ronald Reagan once said, we must reject the ideal that every time a law is broken, every time society becomes guilty rather than the lawbreaker, it is time to restore the American precept that each individual, that means in office or representatives or senators, whomever, is responsible for their own action. Let us keep that in mind and mull over it a little bit. And I said, with the exclusion of the Trump administration, who I have great admiration for what they're doing. And I think you're going to be excited today at our guest speaker. Her name is Dr. Diane Hess. That's H-E-S. She's a founder and medical director of Highline Modern Medicine, a premier practice. Not only does she practice in New York City, but also in Florida. She has been consistently recognized as one of New York's top directors by Castle Connolly since 2010. She has also served 8 years as the director of the American Board of Obesity Medicine. Welcome, Diane, to the show.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
It's an honor. If I could read, guys, all these accolades, it would take up the whole show. But we're going to talk a little bit about them and several other national problems that we have that Diane is very invested in. And quite honestly, she's impressive when she talks to me about them. Diane, do you want to tell them a little bit how we met?
Sure. So I belong to a group of women who are physicians, and we are on the right side of politics. And we were discussing what is going on in America now with a lot of changes. And one of our members, Amy Chai, Dr. Amy Chai, posted that there is a gathering in Palm Beach for United Doctors of America, and it's not only for physicians, but people who support change in healthcare, more transparency, where the future of healthcare is going with AI and the new administration. And this was exactly what I'm interested in, and I signed up. And I have a home in Florida, in South Florida, so it was ideal for me, and we met there.
So what happened is, after I started getting these names from this group of doctors, that they were kind of connected, I think, socially online to discuss issues. And so I met them one by one. It turned out they were part of the same group. And we named ourselves a very cute name so that we could keep in touch. What did we say, Diana?
Dr. Divas and Stars? Is that it? Yeah, Dr. Divas and Stars.
Yeah, we named ourselves Diva Doctors. We were all getting hyped up because not only did we have a grand initiative that we were all behind, and everyone wants to see all the problems of healthcare that need to be brought to the forefront and no longer hidden in the shadows. They need to be taught. And then not only do they need to be taught, we have to take that action to change them. But first, you identify the problem. So we begin to talk on chat. We talked about dresses, what we're going to wear, hair. We even talked about getting makeup done. We wanted to represent ourselves. We didn't know these people. We didn't know that the doctors were coming from all over America, and I think some came from international as well, because they were all in to make America healthy again. And so the initiative's brand new. I can see it growing. But Diane came forth, and she just had such a wealth of information about many things, and we have continued to talk, to become friends. And I said, she's got to be on my show. You want to tell them a little bit about what you do with the pediatric and the adolescents part of the weight management? I'm very interested in that.
Sure. So when I started my training in the Bronx, we were learning about children who were failing to thrive, children who were underweight, and children who were undernourished. But I wasn't seeing any of that in the Bronx. I was seeing kids who were overnourished with the wrong foods. So they were getting a lot of empty calories, and they're having a lot of health problems of adults in childhood. And I decided to do my research project in my residency on obesity in youth. I developed my own program. I became a personal trainer. I got a certification to be a trainer to work with these teenagers and young children. I taught myself nutrition during residency, and I work with these kids. I help make culturally appropriate recipes with them, and it just blossomed from there. And my first job out of residency, I told my boss, I'm really interested in obesity medicine. Luckily, I had a really supportive chairman. He said, you know what? When I started training, there were doctors who wanted to study development and autism, and people thought they were crazy and that would never be a specialty. And now it's a huge specialty. So I'm going to give you 1 day a week to do clinical research on childhood obesity. And that's what I did. And I was one of the first doctors to use any drugs, not even these new ones, any drugs to help children with obesity, because it is a chronic disease. And that's really what the biggest problem was, is that people think you could put a Band-Aid on it and it's temporary. But if you're an obese or overweight child, we know that is going to lead to lifelong chronic illness.
Exactly.
And that's how I became interested in it.
Well, what I could bring it to Kentucky is very plainly is that we have a lot of rural areas, and we have a lot of people that possibly can't afford to eat the way that they should. But what impacts me the most is that you said this is the future of our America, not only medically, potentially in our businesses, in our politics. This is going to affect us if those children don't get help at this point, and it's not brought to the forefront for what you're doing. And I hope that the United Doctors of America do become involved in this aspect of it with the children. I know that we also have another couple of doctors that are going to talk about the mentality of it, how it affects their mental status. I have seen children that have become introverts because they don't know how to get themselves out of what they're in. And it's important. Like I said, this is the future. This is the future of America. We have to start back here to fix what's going forward. Also, Diane, I wanted to say that you've been a medical correspondent for many major medical media outlets, including CBS News and Fox News, and you've been on the Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine, M&S Health, and various other parenting publications, which we're going to talk about in another segment, what happened with that there. But once again, I want to tell you how honored we are for you to be here. The advisory boards, I'm interested in that, about the ritual vitamins. Can you tell us about, because listen, RFK Jr. needs to have you. I mean, really, we hope to have RFK Jr. and Maha attend our next event that we have for United Doctors of America. He needs to see how the different doctors and all spread across America feel the same way, but nobody's been able to get them together. There's not been one organization that can say, hey, let's take all these guys and bring them together. So I'm interested in this the other part of it, too, about the Flying Doctors of America, what you did there.
Sure.
Give me a little bit about that.
I just want to go back to something you said, because you work so much with veterans. just to touch on the obesity, is that 11% of young adults cannot serve in the military because of their weight. That's a huge problem. So they want to serve in the military, but they can't even do it because they're so overweight or obese that they can't serve. So, we really have to
We
talk
re-
about that. And that is the whole thing with food industry.
We do have to talk about that. Who's going to defend our nation when it's time to deploy? God forbid that
Yeah.
it is, and I know President Trump is working not to, but I did not know that statistic. I did
Yeah.
not know that they could not even join because of their weight.
Yes,
That was
it's a huge problem.
That's a huge problem. And what are the Flying Doctors of America? Tell us about
So
that.
the Flying Doctors of America is an organization of volunteer. It's not only physicians, it's nurses, anybody who works in healthcare, and anybody who is actually very comfortable around the healthcare field. They go on missions all over the world. I've been on a mission to Peru. I've been on a mission to El Salvador just this past April, and we go with dentists. So it's the group that I'm with is actually led by dentists, and it's about half dentists and some oral surgeons, and then
Wow.
I went with nurse practitioners and dental assistants and medical assistants, and we come to the most poverty-stricken parts of the world where most people have never seen a doctor, and we actually every member, it's all a contribution. So we pay for our flights, we buy medicine, and we bring it in our
Wonderful.
luggage.
That is so.
And we go and take care of these children and these families who have never really. This year was amazing. We had so many people who didn't even know they were in diabetic crises on IV drips. It was amazing. It was amazing.
She's going to be back. Dr. Diane Hess in the next segment. You'll see her in a few minutes, and we're going to be talking about something completely different. But I want to expand on this Flying Doctors if we have time later, because this
Sure.
is humanitarian. This is what our country's made of. This is what it's for. So we'll see you back in just a few minutes with Dr. Diane Hess, the beloved Dr. Diane Hess. Thank you again.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Hi, you're back to Kentucky's Voice now with Diana Starr and my wonderful guest, Dr. Diane Hess. And this session, we're going to talk about a little bit about what's going on in the world, her perception of it, and how it applies in many different levels for her especially. And tell a little bit about who you are as your background and your interest in politics and what's going on in the Middle East. Can you give us a little bit of history?
Sure. So I am a U.S. citizen and I am an Israeli citizen. I have dual citizenship. My father was Israeli, fifth generation, actually, born in Israel, which is very, very rare. And my mother is American. She's Jewish. My grandfather was a veteran of World War II here. He served in Battle of the Bulge. We came from a very patriotic family. I was very proud of both of my heritage. And I'm very close to my family in Israel. And I went to medical school in Israel, and my children are very pro-Zionist, and they're half of their family, more than half of their family is still there. So we have very close ties to Israel. We're very proud of President Trump and what is going on right now in the world.
Absolutely. He's you had a unique perspective with some statistics when we talked the other day, and I was kind of I researched a little bit after I talked to you because I knew she's very. You don't know her, guys, but she's very succinct in what she says. She doesn't necessarily just embellish. She kind of tells it what it is, and you see that she has such grand passion. And I want to give her kudos for that, because to stand out in this particular time, and we're going to talk in the next segment about that. I want her perception on there's a lot of biblical attachment to what's going on in Israel, as you know, with a lot of Christians and Jewish alone. Also, I want to kind of get your perspective as the, can we say arch enemy of Iran? Is that possible for us to say that? I think that it's just kind of out there that they are bombing your people. And so President Trump has done whoa job. He stepped in, and I just think there's nothing that we can say good enough. And I am a staunch supporter. You are a staunch supporter. The United Doctors of America, which brought us together, are staunch supporters. We did have that at the Trump International Golf Resort. So give me a little about just this, your personal opinion, and she has great ideas about it. So go ahead, Diana, and talk about that.
Well, what I think is that this country, particularly in New York City where I live, the students are being brainwashed. My daughter went to public school here in a fantastic school, Bronx School of Science. It's, 8 Nobel Prize winners came out of that school. It's a magnet school for New York City. It's one of the best schools in the country. And I was very worried that if we were not her parents, she would have been brainwashed, because the New York City School Council is so pro-Islam to the point that it is compromising everybody else's values. So as far as I knew, that this country had a separation of church and state, but as you see with Mamdani winning, there are insidious forces with a lot of money backing them, and we have to stand up. And, I have to say that my daughter, who's 18 now, went into high school very liberal, very optimistic, and she was a victim of cancel culture. She was a victim of anti-Semitism. And she now goes to college in Texas, and my son goes to college in Miami. And I think that says a lot. These are kids who were born and bred in New York City.
Yeah, I appreciate your being so authentic and willing to go out there, because people are looking at Kentucky's Voice. By the way, you can text us at 502-571-0970. We're currently on the radio a portion of this. It will show later on the TV portion. But please text us if you have any questions for myself or for the other Diane. And once again, I'm honored and that she's so available to be real about what's going on. I myself have found that Kentucky focuses on Kentucky as a lot on our central, just as Kentucky. But the problem is with that, and what you just said about New York, because you're putting it out there, we're not just a solitary state. The people that we represent, the people that we vote for, is going to affect the whole country eventually. When these people get in office, it's going to have ramifications. It's going to have a domino effect. It's so true for Kentucky. So as I bring on these guests, I want you to kind of open your mind to say, well, what does that mean for our state? Well, it means a lot. And President Trump, if you're watching, Kentucky needs you. at this point. There's a lot going on with us, and as she said, there's a lot going on in New York, and I was horrified to hear some of the things. Give me those statistics, Diane, that you told me about Iran and the Muslims. There was a statistic that you gave me. There were so many. I think 92 million.
Yes. So there's 92 million Iranians, and only 3 million of those Iranians actually support the Islamic regime. So we have a whole movement that can bring on regime change. And, and I feel personally that if we just end it now, how it is, that the Islamic regime will come back. We have to cut off its head, and I think that's what Israel tried to do with these direct attacks, against the leadership. And I think you've never seen an army literally send a missile to one person's apartment and not blow up the whole building. I mean, these drone attacks were phenomenal to keep, minimize any civilian injuries or death casualties. And I think that our government really should finish the task of regime change, because Iranians want to be free.
Who do you think that is waiting in the wings that possibly could be a part of the new regime? Do you think the old prince?
I think the prince, yeah.
Can you give us a little background on what you know about the prince and what happened exactly on that? I'm not really.
To be honest, I'm not a specialist on that.
Yeah,
I can comment.
So I'm trying to give her perspective from what she hears, knows, people that she loves that are over there, and the Israeli perspective of it. Do you think that the Iranian, and I know you're not a political expert, but you're so knowledgeable, and I keep saying that because I think it's important for people to know the people that are speaking to you are not just someone we pulled off the street and says, hey, come and tell us what you think about Iran. Do you think they'll keep the peace? Do you think that they will, or do you think because what you just said that's going to come back again? Does Israeli fear that? Do you get anything from that?
I think now in Israel there is a sense of calm. I'm getting videos of everybody going out of their houses finally, and being able to walk in the streets and just go get a cup of coffee. I think that the U.S. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I do think like Reza Pahlavi, who is the prince, has been in contact, and I know because my son is very involved in the Persian community, even though we're not Persian, but there's a large presence at University of Miami. And tonight I have a boy coming in, my son's friend coming in from LA who's Persian. I think a lot of these American Iranians would be willing to go back to their country and bring it back to the wonderful country, that it was before, which was a place where we could take a vacation, and now we can't,
Yeah. You did say that to me. It was kind of funny because my mind works really funny. As Girl Talk, we're talking Girl Talk there, right on Kentucky's Voice. So you can expect a little bit of this now and then. But I said maybe one of these days we'll be taking a vacation. We talked about that. Remember?
Yeah.
She has
100%. Listen, I used to go to Turkey. Turkey was my favorite place I ever vacationed. Now I can't go to Turkey.
I know. Yes, and we're going to bring in the fact, especially next week, about the fact that a lot of people don't know the impact that President Trump's decision did. It was fully constitutional in protecting us and in protecting the world. And we're so grateful what he has done. In this next segment coming up, I want to continue to talk to Dr. Diane. It's fascinating, all the knowledge that she has. And we're going to talk a little bit about cancel culture and some of the things that have happened to her as she practices and in personal life and etc. So stay tuned, everyone. 571-0970. Call in with any questions for Diane or myself. We'll see you very soon again. Thank you, Diane. I'll see you in a moment.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
Hello, welcome back, Kentuckians and all those listening. I'm Diana Starr, and I'm sitting here with Dr. Diane Hess, H-E-S. And if you just joined the show, you have just missed a great deal of information about many things, and you can see this show. It will be viewed again, and I encourage you to look it up. Listen to her. We're going to have her back on the show, especially concerning things with childhood obesity, how it affects Kentucky, how it affects the nation, and other things. But right now, we're going to go into a different part of the show that I feel like is major important. You know, sometimes we don't like to speak out the things that we want to keep them hidden, like I said, in the shadows. But things that have happened to her in her life and about culture, I need her to elaborate on the things that she told me. I want you guys to be aware that this is happening all over America. So go ahead, Diane. You just jump right in and start wherever you want.
So I think the story that struck Diana the most was last year I was working for a hospital system, and I own the office where the hospital was renting from me. And I had a mezuzah on my elevator because that's the entrance to the office space. And, you know, a mezuzah, it blesses the home or the workspace in Jewish religion. And we say a prayer when we put it up, and it has a little scroll inside of it. And I was seeing patients. And while I was seeing patients, I came out of my exam room, and my secretary, who is not Jewish, said, "Oh, Dr. Hess, I just want to tell you that somebody came by from utilities and took down that thingy that was on the door." She didn't know the name. She said, the thing that was on the elevator, because they said it's not allowed. And I went to look for it, and it wasn't there. And you saw where the paint had been painted around it, and it was kind of blank. And then I went to my desk, and my mezuzah wasn't there, and my scroll was not there. And I called the hospital, and I said, somebody just came by, and basically everybody just denied it. Everybody from the top down denied it. I called my good friend Melissa Ortiz, who works in Washington, D.C., to try to help me with this. But basically, about religious freedoms, and I understand, and I'm a landlord, so they were renting from me, and we could have had a discussion about it. When you come into my office, there's a giant American flag. I'm a very proud American, but I do own the space. And in my mind, probably somebody complained about it, maybe a patient, maybe an employee, I don't know, that the mezuzah was there, and they took it down. And that's when I knew I could not work there any longer, and I ended up having a huge blowout with this company, and they threatened to sue me because I broke my contract. And I said, go ahead and sue me. I can't wait to go into court and tell them what you have done. And I bring it on, and guess what? They're not suing me.
Of course,
because they don't want it out there.
Well, the thing is, your constitutional rights about freedom of religion, they violate in every, and you own the property. Let me get that straight, because I want to make sure. So how could they feel like, I'm just aghast. How could they feel like that they just could come in there and decide who you worship and what you worship? And even though our religions are different, they're still the same. We have the same ethics about many things, but would never, never try to compromise the Jewish people who I believe are blessed. So why couldn't you have sued them? I mean, constitutionally, it seems like there was an infraction there. I don't understand.
Yes, because it was hearsay, right? So I didn't have proof. I didn't have a video of it because they don't have the video cameras there. And I spoke to a lawyer about it, and honestly, I'm a pediatrician. I don't have deep pockets, and it would have cost me a fortune. And that's the sad truth. But I was so disgusted, and they put us through so many lectures and videos that we had to watch about cultural sensitivity, and then they completely violated my rights.
Right.
Let's just say I'm glad I've parted ways with them. It was horrible. Mm-hmm.
And speak a little bit of what happened with you were on major media outlets a lot.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit what happened there.
So during COVID pandemic, I was a weekly correspondent on CBS News, and I was working. I literally was in the heart of the pandemic. I was in New York City. I volunteer for the New York Medical Corps. So I was running vaccine pods at the time when COVID first came out, because it was mandated that you couldn't work in New York without the vaccine. So everybody had to get vaccinated. So we were vaccinating adults. I was seeing patients. We weren't allowed to see patients indoors. Luckily, my office had a little backyard and I built a tarp and a tent and we were seeing patients outside. It was craziness. I mean, I had to pay privately for all the PPE. I didn't have any funding. I don't work for, at that time, I wasn't working for a hospital, spent crazy amounts of money on PPE to keep my office going. And we were on the news and they were asking about children not having had the vaccine yet. And I said, I think the schools should be open. I think kids should be in school. I don't think kids should be wearing masks. I'm working in the heart of the pandemic and I have no kids who went to the hospital, zero children in 2 offices at the time, over 2,000 patients who've even gone to the hospital with dehydration for COVID. I think that the losses are great. I think as far as milestones, speech, socializing, terrified to be outside. I saw my patients not thriving at all. People were flocking out of New York City, leaving because of all our mandates. And when I said this on the news, I got death threats. I had other pediatricians call for me to be suspended. They said that they reported me to the American Board of Pediatrics. I mean, it was horrible.
It was, and it seemed like it extended further. It went on and on and on, but yet you really thrived through it because you have that determination to do right. And referring back to the fact that you do flying, the member of the Flying Doctors of America, we've discussed that a couple of times, and I'm just so proud to know that there are people that monetary efforts are not always what we want. We want people that are willing to give up what they have to give for their country, and I think that's you among the other ones. We talked with Dr. Chai, who I'm going to have on the show again with you, and her husband, Dr. Chai, and she faced some of the same culture problems because of political affiliations. Did that seem to connect with that with your loss of shows that you were hosting or going on there?
Yes. Yes, for sure. It's funny because I also would go on different channels, and different channels had different opinions. I have to say that the only channel that I've never ever been censored on in my whole career is Fox. I love Fox, my favorite. Yeah. They let me say they let me speak. But I can say that I was supposed to go to Johns Hopkins, my alma mater, and I was supposed to speak about nutrition because I'm an obesity specialist. I was hosting a panel at the School of Public Health. I was invited. I coordinated this panel. I was going on with 2 dietitians that I was bringing with me, one from Mass General and another one from Johns Hopkins, actually. And this was April of 2022. And I got an email from Johns Hopkins School of Public Health that my lecture is canceled and I'm not allowed to host the panel because I tweeted to Mayor Adams in April of 2022 to stop making children wear masks because the pandemic is over and our children are wearing these soggy masks on their face and it's done. Take this off. Our children are suffering. And I was canceled by Johns Hopkins, where in Baltimore, the kids were not wearing masks, but in New York City, they were. They said I made their public health students feel uncomfortable. Oh. So I said, okay, let's change the topic. I welcome debate. I welcome discourse. Let me come and speak to your public health students and we'll bring data. And we will have a discussion about why the mask mandate should be stopped. And they would not even answer me.
Of course. And, we see in Kentucky this kind of thing all the time. It's not known by the mainstream media. You don't hear them talk about things of this sort or what happens when you come out against somebody publicly or the ramifications that come are, it's a quote-unquote punishment because you don't go along with the status quo or you don't go along with what's done. The Kentucky's voice is always going to not limit to what I say, and not whether it's controversial or not. It needs to be said. It needs to give you food for thought. You must have food for thought, as I told you before. I'm bringing to you a doctor that has faced immense, probably financial attacks, and of course her notoriety as being a public speaker. I just, when she told me that she got canceled off those shows, I was like, wow, that is incredible that you did. Can you briefly, we've got a time left. Why don't you tell me, if you can succinctly tell me about what your daughter and what she faced with anti-Semitism? Am I correct? The one that was a
Yes,
liberal.
yes, yes. So my daughter, when when she was going to school, what there was Bronx Science actually the largest. So the largest population of Bronx Science graduates outside of New York actually live in Israel. It's a lot of Jewish kids go to that school. It's a school that's a magnet school, and we know that our culture cherishes education. So there's a lot of Jewish kids. Anyway, they made an alumni dinner, a free alumni dinner in Tel Aviv, and they posted it on the website from the Bronx Science alumni. And my daughter was still a high school student, saying, everybody's welcome with their families. We're going to have a alumni day in Tel Aviv, and the alumni association posted it. This led to craziness that the FBI was actually involved. So the Muslim students and the patient and the students who supported pro-Palestinian rights, everything, they said that they don't want funding from Bronx Science to go to a luncheon in Israel. And this started hate attacks against Jewish students in Bronx Science, where they threatened to kill a Jewish student who spoke up. They threatened to kill him on the way to school. The FBI wasn't involved. My daughter got tons of hate texts. They told them if they wear a Jewish star to school, they will find them on the way to school. They will hurt them on the way to school. Um, we tried to bring it up as high as we could. The school hushed it. My daughter actually had a math teacher who is from the Soviet Union, and he knew what this kind of culture was like. And he was Jewish, but he wrote a huge 4-page letter of how ashamed he is of the school that he is teaching, and he's so proud of the Jewish students who are fighting back. But not every Jewish student is like my family. Their dad is Israeli. They're taught to be proud. Kids were cowering. Kids were scared. Kids were afraid they were going to get killed on the way to school. And this is in New York City.
And this is,
And the New York City Department of Education did nothing to help us.
and we know that in the Department of Education and many of the school systems in Kentucky, and everybody out there watching, 5710970, you can text in. This happens in your own county. We fight it all the time. Dr. Diane Hess, has been a privilege to keep you. I would like for you to stay on for the last segment, if you will, maybe give your input.
Absolutely.
I'm going to end it there, and we're going to. This isn't the last show for her. I can assure you that. She's so well versed. I applaud her bravery and her ability to keep speaking up. Despite what the rest of the people say. And that's what we have to do as Americans. That's what Trump does. It doesn't matter. You speak up. We'll see you in a few minutes, returning with Dr. Diane Hess and my special star award that I give.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Diana Starr on Kentucky's Voice. Remember that you can call in, you can text in anytime with your comments, and we'll try to address those. Dr. Diane Hess had so much to say today, and I am impacted by her words. And like I said, I'd known her briefly. Probably for about a month now, we've known each other, and we continue to fight on the same fight. I want to just go over briefly some of the things she said, and then I'm going to bring her back on. These things that she's talking about are not foreign to other states. She's just brave enough with some of the other diva doctors. Yes, it's a cute little thing we have for doctors. It's part of the growing initiative, but this is happening everywhere, these kind of things, especially with the Board of Education stepping in, trying to stifle our rights as parents and or our input about what happens in our school. I know in Kentucky, many legislators that are fighting against this, even though President Trump's done wonderful, and Linda McMahon has done wonderful in trying to do that. But listen, this is what I say, and this is a kind of preemptive for next week's show on Tuesday. Do not miss next week's show. President Trump, do not miss next week's show, because things that you think aren't. And that's what you got to remember. You need to speak out, research out, and understand that your state, too, is going under these same things and the same fire that Diane spoke about. I want to bring her back on now, and I want to address a couple of things with her. Just because, even though I didn't aim to, Diane, I was so, I know, it's just all my mind's thinking all the time about what you said and your bravery and what you faced. And because you're such a patriot, this woman is a patriot. She's 100% Trumper. She's ready to jump in with the Diva Doctors of United Doctors of America, which we hope becomes official. And any doctors in Kentucky that are listening to this show or hear this show, please reach out to the station. They can get a hold of me. And you can probably find me on social media as well. We encourage not just women, because we did have, we had Michael, who was so intently invested in this project, this initiative, that to make America have health care reform, that I feel like it's going to blow up. So we want any doctors in America, well, not America, but Kentucky as well, to make sure that they reach out and say, hey, guys, there's going to be other events. I know we're going to be doing veterans events. I do things for our veterans. Any final words you want to say before I go into the rest of this segment? Diane, you might want to.
You know, the only thing I'm thinking in my head is how many patients I'm going to lose after they hear this. Because that's how New York City is. I hope that they know that I'm a great doctor. And I think most of my patients know where I stand. But that's the crazy thing that you have to think about as a doctor now, that if you actually speak your voice, it's going to hurt you. But I've been taught never to back down, and I believe in what I say. And I'm also very open-minded, and I'm very fair. And I listen to both sides all the time. And I believe healthcare is a right, not a privilege. And I would love to come back, because when you were just speaking, I have a lot of stories I could tell you about transgender things that are going on in the schools and in medicine as well.
See, and those are the things, folks, that President Trump and his teams are working against to eradicate, that the choices that we have are fair and constitutional, and that we're not taking advantage of. I mean, the fact that you just said that you're going to lose patients just is like, are you kidding me? But I know that you're right. I know that people lose popularity. I'm not here for a popularity contest.
Exactly.
I'm here to tell the truth, to tell what I think I see that is incorrect or that should be changed in our America. This is our America, and it's run by the greatest president that I know that we have, and I'm older. And so Kentucky's Voice will always continue to bring forth this kind of segments and have people like Dr. Diane on. And as we go on, and we will keep you informed about United Doctors of America and what's going on with that initiative. RFK Jr., if you're out there watching, if you see this, I know that you're going to hop right in, because we refuse to be cowed down by big pharma or by big hospital systems that continually want to suppress how we feel and telling the truth. It's basically, you just now told a lot of truth, Diane. So moving forward, I'm going to do something. I'm going to talk really briefly about what happened on June the 14th. I was in D.C. I was privileged and invited to a faith hearing commission there. But also, we all know that it was the President Trump's birthday, but it was the 250th anniversary of the military. And there was a parade, of course, with all representations of the military. So what I want to do right now is talk about the elephant that's in the room that we need to address. That's my elephant. I've got him in the back room there, and he comes out and trumpets every time that I need for him to know about what's going on. So it was hot that day. It was crowded and hot. In fact, it was scorchingly so, but that does not stop the people that came to honor the veterans from all ages, those who have fought before, those who have fought now. I am a national ambassador for veterans for America First. You'll see the logo up there on the screen. We fight for liberties for the veterans, inclusive. We're going to be doing a lot for healthcare reform so that veterans get what they need. But this military parade was to honor not only the birth of the military and army in 1775, but it was to show and represent a memory for the enduring courage and sacrifice of all of the people that have worn that uniform. And it was filled with stirring moments. There was marching bands. There was voices lifted up in patriotic song. Some of the people that I know went, it was far from me, but you could see it still, said that they almost cried. And these weren't just easy people. They said it was so stirring that they almost cried. There was a cadence of the boots as they marched in sync, which is a military thing. It's not a neo-Nazi thing, as it was presented negatively, and that's the elephant in the room we need to talk about. When you represent vets like we do at VFAF, you need to understand we're representing what they have done, what they're going to do, and in the future, and that you're here because of them. And I think I said this last time, and what impacts me the most is that Trump did not plan this on his birthday. He did not say, hey, we're having this military parade. Then it happened to be that he was born on that day. He won the election, so therefore it was celebrated together. But for those who are unaware, the U.S. Army filed for a permit to be granted for a grand parade for its 250-year-old anniversary, and that function in June of 2024. In June of 2024. At that point, it was Biden's administration that approved that for the anniversary parade. It was not created by Trump, nor was it intended to coincide with his birthday. It just happened. And I'm going to say to you that I think things are orchestrated by God. I am a believer. I think things are orchestrated by God, and I'm happy to be able to pronounce that on this platform. I appreciate Kentucky's Voice. 571-0970. Diane, do you have any quick things to say about that before I finish for my Star Award coming up?
No, I love that you are calling out people. People will find hate. And, I think that a study just came out that conservative women are the happiest. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I haven't.
And it's because so many left-wing liberals are so busy being angry all the time and trying to find something to be angry over. And I think it really is it says something about our personalities, and we get along and we sync even though we just met because we are positive people and we are optimistic and we love our country.
Yeah, and that common goal is always about, do you love your country? Is that just words? Do you love your country? I listened to a sermon. I'm going to say it real fast because then I have to give out my Star Award. I listened to a sermon by a minister, and he says, you want to really be gangster? You want to be really gangster? He said gangster is those in the Middle East that kneel on their and profess their religion and still get beheaded for it. If you're really gangster, you have to think it in this method. Think about this. If somebody comes to you and they say, we don't want you to profess Jesus, we're going to kill you if you don't give up your religion. Being gangster, saying, go ahead, because the only place you're going to find me is in heaven after that. So what can you do but kill me? That's what I've got to say about that. So be a gangster for God is what I get to say. And, stick to what you did. And Diana, your passion just seems to bounce off the things I'm saying. I appreciate that you understand the honesty. Kentucky's Voice is always going to try to bring you different things with passion. Now we're going to do the Star Award. Last week, the Star Award went to, if you guys remember, Target and Macy's for what they did during the month of June. Instead of celebrating LGBTQ, ERFJ, whatever, they actually pushed forward the thing that they should and honoring the fathers of America, and they made that their mandates during June. What I'm telling you today is going to kind of shock you. So $45 million was donated to make this parade happen because we had representation of all the military forces. And these are the people that I'm giving the Star Award to. Okay, UFC, we know they love Trump. It's Coinbase. Amazon, we have, let's see, computer-based, Lockheed Martin, and this is going to shock you a little bit, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola said, I'm going to, you know why? Because this is what happens, and I'm going to say it real fast before I tell you. Do not miss next week's show. On Tuesday, you're going to be blown off your seats. President Trump and the White House need to listen to this before they pick anybody out of Kentucky. I'm just giving you a teaser here that is going to be magnificent. Kentucky, we appreciate you. Watch, share, and continue to support Kentucky's Voice. Keep going. Keep going. Everybody that's fighting. This is Diana Starr with BFAF.